Jesus is condemning the Pharisees and lawyers and compares them to the unfaithful Jews of the Old Testament. He says, "Therefore also the wisdom of God said, I will send them prophets and apostles, some of whom will kill and persecute, so that the blood of all the prophets shed from the foundation of the world may be charged against this generation, from the blood of Abel to the blood of Zechariah, who perished between the altar and the sanctuary." So basically, Jesus is talking about martyrs in the Old Testament, those who unjustly were murdered for their faith. Abel and Zechariah are like bookends. You see, you have the first and you have the last. Now, you remember Abel, right? He was in Genesis chapter 4. His brother Cain killed him out of jealousy because Abel's offering was acceptable to the Lord. Now, Zechariah, on the other hand, well, this gets a little trickier to pin down. You see, Zechariah means the Lord has remembered. And it's such a popular name that over 30 people in the Bible are actually named Zechariah. Now, one hint is that Matthew records the same event and notes that Zechariah is the son of Berechiah. All right. Now, most scholars attribute this Zechariah to be from 2 Chronicles 24, who is noted as the son of Jehoiada the priest. Now, the king at the time allowed idols into Israel. So then 2 Chronicles says, "Then the Spirit of God clothed Zechariah the son of Jehoiada the priest. And he stood above the people and said to them, 'Thus says God, why do you break the commandments of the Lord so that you cannot prosper? Because you have forsaken the Lord, he has forsaken you.' But they conspired against him, and by command of the king, they stoned him with stones in the court of the house of the Lord." So now this is at the end of 2 Chronicles, right before the exile. So this would have been really the last recorded martyr in the Old Testament. Now, this Zechariah is not the son of Berechiah. He's not listed that way at least, but rather the son of Jehoiada. Now, it could be that Berechiah is like his grandfather. After all, the Bible's genealogy does that. They use the word son to often describe a descendant. So, our Zechariah probably is this one, but just to make this lengthier and go way over a minute, let's look at one more Zechariah. This one was the prophet who wrote the actual book of Zechariah, and he's listed as a minor prophet. His book was written about 70 years after our first Zechariah. According to his book, he is the son of Berechiah, which means, hey, we have a match. But before you get too excited, you see, Berechiah was also a common name, so does not really mean that it's exactly the same guy that Jesus references. Also, we do not know how this second Zechariah died. The Bible simply does not tell us if he was martyred or not. So, even though that he has a matching father, this is a big strike against him. To conclude this mess, we have Abel, the first martyr. We have Zechariah, the last of the Old Testament. That we know, and that's Jesus' point. Now, as far as which Zechariah Jesus is referring to, well, I'm going to go with the first one because the Bible specifically mentions his murder in the temple. So there you go. A little bit or maybe a lot on Zechariah, and that's enough today for our Historical Minute.